The price of seeking to be greater than everyone around. Nikola Tesla. The laboratory door closes with a muffled sound. Tesla is alone again. There is no applause. There is no recognition. Just the electric hum of the coils and the smell of ozone in the air. He has just demonstrated in front of investors, journalists, and engineers something that no one believed possible, transmitting electricity through the air, without wires, without limits, and everyone left in silence, some with disdainful smiles, others with fear disguised as skepticism. He hears footsteps moving away down the hall, feel the weight of emptiness, and so, for the first time in years, Nikola Tesla asks himself, what happens when you can see the future, but the world still lives in the past? It's 1903. New York is in the midst of a race for electricity, for power, for control. But Tesla doesn't want to control anything. He wants to free, and that makes him dangerous. Because when you propose giving free energy to the entire world, you're not just offering an invention. You are declaring war on all empires that profit from scarcity. Tesla knew this, and yet, he continued. 3 days before that meeting, he had received a letter. No sender, just one sentence written by hand, in firm, calculated handwriting. Men who see too much are often blind. He did not show the letter to anyone. He kept it in his coat pocket, along with the schematics for Wardenclyffe's tower, the project that would change everything. That tower wasn't just an energy transmitter. It was a symbol, a declaration that human beings could live without chains, without wires, without ties. But those who profit from the chains don't want to see them cut. And that night, as he walked through the deserted streets of Manhattan, Tesla felt something he had never felt before. The weight of loneliness of someone walking ahead of time itself. He returned to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel around 11 p.m. The doorman greeted him with a distant wave, as always. Tesla went up the stairs. He never used an elevator. He was terrified of closed spaces and entered room 207. Everything was exactly as he had left it, except for one detail. There was an envelope on the table. Again, no sender. He opened it with shaking hands. Not from fear, but from a strange anticipation. Inside, a single photograph. The image showed Wardenclyffe's tower, but not how it was being built. The photo showed the destroyed tower, burnt, in ruins. And on the back, written in the same handwriting as the previous letter, you can light up the world, or you can die trying. Tesla sat on the bed. He took a deep breath. And then, something inside him changed. It wasn't fear. It was clarity. He finally understood the game. He understood that he was not just creating machines. I was challenging an entire system, and systems do not forgive those who expose them. But Tesla was not a man to back down. He was a man of frequencies. And did you know that when you vibrate at too high a frequency, the world around you tries to pull you back? Because mediocrity does not tolerate excellence, and fear always tries to silence courage. And the next morning he returned to the laboratory, but this time with a decision made. He wouldn't just build Wardenclyffe, he would document it, photograph her, record each step, because if something happened to him, the truth wouldn't die with it. And it was at that moment that he realized it wasn't the machines that were in danger, it was him. Because when you become bigger than everyone around you, you become a target. And Tesla was about to discover that there are prices that no genius can pay. If you are feeling something while listening to this story, if something inside you recognizes this loneliness of someone who sees what others don't see, subscribe to the channel. Because what comes next will show you not only what happened to Tesla, but what happens to everyone who dares to vibrate higher than the world allows. The man who walked into JP Morgan's office that afternoon didn't seem threatening. He wore a gray suit, a discreet hat, and carried a worn leather briefcase. But Morgan knew power when he saw it. And that man, although silent, emanated something that few possessed, the ability to destroy without making noise. "Mr. Morgan," said the visitor, taking off his hat, "I came to talk about Tesla." Morgan didn't even look up from the documents in front of him. He just gestured for the man to sit down. He had been waiting for that conversation for weeks. Ever since Tesla publicly announced the construction of Wardenclyffe, the phones haven't stopped ringing. Nervous investors, concerned shareholders, everyone asking the same question. What happens to our profits if energy becomes free? "Speak," Morgan said, finally looking up. The man opened the folder and slid you a series of photographs on the table. They were images of the tower, plants, schematics, and something else. Records of Tesla's secret meetings with European scientists, letters exchanged with independent investors, notes on wireless energy transmission on a global scale. He's not just building a tower, Mr. Morgan. He's building a manifesto. And if it works, everything you control disappears. Morgan picked up one of the photos. He studied her for a long moment. Then, with the same coldness with which he signed million-dollar contracts, he said, "How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. He works day and night. He doesn't sleep. He barely eats. He's obsessed." Morgan smiled. It wasn't a smile of joy. It was the smile of someone who had won wars before they even started. Obsessed men make mistakes, and mistakes can be magnified. The visitor nodded. "What do you suggest?" Morgan leaned back in his chair, fingers laced over his chest. "Cut the money. Spread rumors. Make him look crazy. And if that doesn't work..." He paused, looking out the window at the city below. There are other ways to turn off a light. Meanwhile, miles away, Tesla was at the top of the Wardenclyffe Tower, watching the sunset. The wind hit hard against the metal structures, making a serious, almost musical sound. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I felt the energy around me, not just the electricity that flowed through the cables, but something bigger, an invisible chain that connected everything." "Mr. Tesla," the voice came from below. It was George Scherf, his most loyal assistant, the only one who still believed. Or maybe the only one that hadn't been purchased yet. "We received another denial, sir. The bank refused the loan. They said the project is impractical." Tesla descended from the tower slowly, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Impractical," he repeated as if tasting the bitter taste of the word. "They say that because they can't imagine. And what they can't imagine, they try to destroy." George hesitated, but then took an envelope out of his pocket. "And there's this. It arrived today. No sender, like the others." Tesla took the envelope. "I knew what I would find before I even opened it. Another threat, another attempt to undermine your confidence. But this time, there was something different. Inside the envelope, in addition to the letter, there was a small photo, not from the tower. It was a photo of himself, taken without him knowing, at the hotel, in the street, in the laboratory. Someone was watching every move, and the letter just said, 'You have a choice. Stop now and live comfortably. Continue and lose everything.'" Tesla crumpled the paper and threw it on the floor. "Comfortably," he murmured, "as if there is comfort in betraying who you are." That night, he returned to the hotel later than usual. The streets were empty, lit only by electric streetlights, the same electricity he had helped bring into the world, but which was now being used to chain him. The irony did not go unnoticed. Upon entering the room, he immediately realized someone had been there. Nothing was out of place, but he knew. "I felt." The papers on the table were slightly misaligned. The drawer, which he always left locked, had an almost imperceptible mark of forced entry. They were looking for something, but what? And then Tesla smiled, because what they were looking for was never there. Wardenclyffe's true plans, the final calculations, the exact frequencies, everything was stored in the one place no one could steal, inside his mind. He had learned years ago that trusting paper was trusting vulnerability. Then he memorized everything, every number, every sequence, every variable. His mind was the tower, and as long as he was alive, the tower would be protected. But this certainty brought another, darker realization while he was alive. The next day, news spread across the New York newspapers. A small subject, almost unnoticed, but strategically placed in the science section. The headline read, "Tesla claims can transmit thoughts through air. Scientists question inventor's sanity." The article did not mention Wardenclyffe. "I didn't talk about energy." It merely insinuated with carefully chosen words that Tesla was losing control, that his ideas were becoming delusional, that he, once brilliant, now walked the border between genius and madness. George showed the newspaper to Tesla in the laboratory. "Sir, this is defamation. We can sue. We can..." "No," Tesla interrupted calmly. "This is exactly what they want. A public battle. More headlines, more doubts. Let's not feed the circus." But inside, something broke, because Tesla knew that this was just the beginning, and the enemy he faced had no face, no name, but it had infinite resources and patience. He looked out the laboratory window, at the city outside, millions of people living their lives, unaware that their future was being decided at that very moment, between a man who wanted to free humanity and others who profited from keeping it imprisoned. And for the first time, Tesla felt something he never imagined he would feel, a deep, silent, electric rage, not against Morgan, not against the newspapers, but against the human condition itself, which prefers the safety of darkness to the risk of light. But anger, he knew, was just misdirected energy, and Tesla was a master at redirecting energy. Tesla didn't sleep that night, not even the next one, but it wasn't ordinary insomnia. It was absolute clarity. He had understood the game, and now he was about to change the rules. Sitting at the laboratory table, in the light of a single incandescent bulb, he began to write. Not plans, not calculations, letters, dozens of them, addressed to specific people in specific places, Scientists in Europe, independent inventors in Canada, visionary engineers in South America. People he knew were not under Morgan's control. Each card contained a part of the puzzle. Never enough for anyone alone to replicate Wardenclyffe, but enough for, together, the information to survive. He was creating an invisible network, a web of distributed knowledge, because Tesla had understood something fundamental. Ideas cannot be killed if they are not in one place. If they come after me, he muttered to himself, sealing the last envelope, they'll find that destroying a man doesn't destroy a frequency. George entered the laboratory at dawn and found Tesla still awake, surrounded by papers, stamps, and maps. "Sir, you need to rest." Tesla looked up. There was something different about them. It wasn't tiredness. It was pure, distilled, incandescent determination. "Rest is a luxury for those who have time, George, and we're running out of time." He got up, walked to the window, and pointed to the tower in the distance. "They think they're circling me, cutting off my money, staining my name. But they don't understand one thing. I don't need their approval to complete this. I just need enough time to turn the machine on. Once. Just once." George frowned. "And what happens when you call?" Tesla smiled. It was a sad, almost prophetic smile. "The world will feel it, even if it doesn't understand. The frequency will travel, and when it travels, there will be no way to erase it, because energy doesn't forget, George. It just transforms." 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. Tesla received a visitor, not from Morgan, not from his henchmen, but from someone he would never imagine seeing again, Thomas Edison. The two men had not spoken to each other for years. The so-called War of Currents had left deep scars. Edison had advocated direct current, Tesla, the alternate, and Tesla had won. But the technical victory did not erase the personal bitterness. When Edison entered the laboratory, Tesla was adjusting a coil. He didn't turn around immediately. He just said, without looking up, "Are you here to offer me condolences or congratulations?" Edison took off his hat and looked around with an expression that mixed nostalgia and sadness. "I came to warn you." Now Tesla has stopped. He turned slowly. "To warn?" Edison walked to the window, avoiding direct gaze. "Morgan is planning something. I don't know exactly what, but I know it involves you. And I know it involves money. A lot of money." He paused. "Tesla, I disagreed with you on many things, but I never doubted your genius. And I don't want to see you destroyed by men who understand nothing but profit." Tesla was silent for a long moment. Then, in a surprisingly calm voice, he said, "Why are you telling me this?" Edison finally faced him. There was something in his eyes that Tesla had never seen before. Remorse. "Because I lived what you're living. I tried to change the world. And the world taught me that innovation without political power is just a target painted on your back." He sighed. "You are alone, Tesla, and men alone cannot conquer empires." Tesla smiled, but it wasn't a smile of defeat. It was a smile of someone who knows something that the other has not yet discovered. "Edison, you're wrong about one thing. I'm not trying to conquer an empire. I'm trying to make it irrelevant." Edison shook his head, put his hat back on, and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned around one last time. "Then God help you, Nikola, because no one else will." That same night, Tesla put the riskiest part of his plan into action. He knew the lab was being watched. I knew that every movement was reported, so he decided to use this to his advantage. He began to work ostensibly for secondary jets, public demonstrations of harmless machines, interviews where he talked about robotics, about X-rays, about anything except Wardenclyffe. Meanwhile, in the early hours, when the watchmen relaxed, he and George did the real work. They installed the last components of the tower. They calibrated the frequencies. They tested the connections. Everything in absolute silence. No records, no witnesses. And then, on a cold October night, Tesla did something that would seal his fate. He turned on the tower. Not completely, just enough to generate a pulse. A single electromagnetic wave that traveled through the air. Invisible, silent, but measurable. He had instruments spread out in strategic points around the city, and everyone registered the signal. It worked. For the first time in human history, energy had been transmitted wirelessly, without significant losses, through the air. The dream was alive, and it was real. Tesla fell to his knees on the laboratory floor, not from exhaustion, but from something he had never allowed himself to fully feel: hope. George ran up to him. "Sir, we did it. We did it." But Tesla raised his hand, asking for silence. "No, not yet. That was just the test. Now comes the hard part." He stood up, wiped away the tears he had tried to hide. "Now we need to do it in front of the world, and once we do, there will be no turning back." "Yonchurur." But what Tesla didn't know was that electromagnetic pulse didn't go unnoticed. Kilometers away, in a dark office on Wall Street, a device recorded the anomaly. A technician took the printed paper to his supervisor, and the supervisor took him to Morgan. Morgan looked at the chart, saw the energy spike, saw the exact time, saw the approximate location, and then, with the eerie calm of someone who always knew this moment would come, he picked up the phone and made a call. "Accelerate the plan," he said simply. "He's closer than we thought." On the other end of the line, a voice replied, "How long do we have?" Morgan looked out the window, at the city lit by his electricity, controlled by his cables, powered by his empire. "It doesn't matter how much time he has. It matters how much time we give him," and hung up. Browns meanwhile. Tesla returned to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel for the last time a free man. He didn't know it yet, but that would be the last night he would sleep without fear. Because from that pulse, from that silent proof that his dream was possible, he had crossed an invisible line. He was no longer a potential threat, and it became a problem that needed to be solved. The call came at 6 in the morning. Tesla answered, still a little dazed, with the hoarse voice of someone who had finally managed to sleep for a few hours. On the other end of the line, George screamed, desperate, almost unintelligible. "Sir, the tower, they... Tesla dropped his phone. He didn't need to hear the rest. I already knew. He dressed hastily and ran out of the hotel. On the streets, people pointed to the sky in the distance. A column of black smoke rose on the horizon, directly in the direction of Wardenclyffe. When he arrived at the scene, what he saw made him stop in the middle of the road, unable to take another step. The tower was on fire. It was not an accidental fire. He was methodical, calculated. The flames rose in patterns that indicated multiple ignition points. Someone had made sure nothing survived. George ran up to him, his face covered in soot and tears. They arrived at dawn. 5 men. They said they had orders. They didn't let anyone in. They poured kerosene on everything and Tesla did not respond. He just walked slowly towards what was left of his dream. The heat was unbearable, but he continued. He stopped a few meters from the flames, his eyes fixed on the collapsing structure. And then, something strange happened. He started to laugh. It wasn't a laugh of madness. It was something deeper. A sudden, irrevocable realization of something he should have realized from the beginning. "They burned the tower," said Tesla, still laughing, tears streaming down his face. "But they didn't burn the frequency." George looked at him confused. "Sir, I don't..." Tesla turned to him, eyes glowing with frightening intensity. "The tower was just the transmitter, George, but the transmission already happened. 3 nights ago, remember? The pulse. It traveled, and I documented everything. Every number, every calculation, every proof." He took a small notebook from his inside coat pocket. It was dented, worn, but intact. "This is the real Wardenclyffe, and that, my friend, they will never be able to burn." That same afternoon, Tesla did something no one expected. He did not go to the press to report the fire. He didn't go to the police. He didn't try to rebuild. Instead, it disappeared. For 3 days, no one knew where he was. Neither does George. Neither do hotels. Neither do the newspapers. Tesla simply disappeared. Meanwhile, Morgan celebrated in silence. The problem had been resolved. The tower destroyed. Tesla apparently broken. And the world would continue to depend on cables, meters, and monthly electricity bills. But on the 4th day, something started to happen. European newspapers simultaneously published articles on wireless power transmission. These were not speculations. There were detailed technical calculations, diagrams, exact frequencies, and they all cited the same source: letters received from Nikola Tesla weeks before. In Paris, a scientist replicated the experiment on a smaller scale. It worked. In London, an engineer published the results in a respected scientific journal. In Germany, a university announced that it would begin research based on Tesla's discoveries. Information was spreading, not like an explosion, but like an undercurrent, invisible, unstoppable. And then, on the morning of the 5th day, Tesla reappeared. He walked into J.P. Morgan's office without an appointment, without prior notice. The security guards tried to stop him, but something in Tesla's eyes made them hesitate. He didn't look like a defeated man. He looked like a man who had finally understood his own power. Morgan was on the phone when Tesla entered. He hung up slowly, eyes fixed on the inventor. "I came to thank you," said Tesla, with disturbing calm. Morgan frowned. "To thank?" "Yes, for burning the tower. Because it made me realize something fundamental." Tesla walked to the window, looking at the city below. "You believed you controlled electricity, that you controlled the future, but in reality, you only control wires, and wires can be cut. Frequencies cannot." Morgan stood up, voice low but threatening. "You're speaking in riddles, Tesla, and I don't have the patience for that." Tesla turned around, and for the first time, Morgan saw something that deeply troubled him. Tesla was not afraid. "You destroyed my tower. but you forgot to destroy the copies. You forgot that information doesn't burn. And now, while you sit here thinking you won, scientists on 3 continents are validating my work, publishing it, teaching it, replicating it. The color drained from Morgan's face. You're bluffing. Tesla threw 3 international newspapers onto the table, all with articles about wireless transmission, all crediting Tesla. You can buy politicians, you can buy newspapers, you can even buy judges, but you can't buy physics, Morgan. And physics is on my side. Morgan punched the table. I'm going to sue every one of these newspapers. I'm going to... What are you going to do? Tesla interrupted, his voice still calm. Are you going to prosecute science? Are you going to burn down libraries in Europe? Are you going to stop engineers from thinking? He smiled. You've already lost. You just don't know it yet. But then something unexpected happened. Something that not even Tesla had predicted. Morgan slowly sat up, and to Tesla's surprise, he also smiled. But it was a different smile. Tired, almost respectful. You're brilliant, Tesla. Always have been. But you're also naive. Morgan took out a cigar and calmly lit it. Do you know how many brilliant inventors I've seen in my life? Dozens. Do you know how many really changed the world? None. Do you know why? Tesla did not respond. Because changing the world does not require genius. It requires power. And power is not built with ideas. It is built with control. Morgan took a long drag. You've spread your knowledge, great. But who's going to fund the research? Who's going to build the factories? Who's going to distribute the technology? He leaned forward. Me, and people like me. And when we do, we will charge, we will control. And your dream of free energy will become just another product we sell. Tesla felt something break inside him, because for the first time he realized that Morgan was right, not about science, but about the world. So that's it? Tesla asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You admit I was right, but you say it doesn't matter? Morgan got up, walked to the door and opened it, a clear signal for Tesla to leave. You were right about physics, Tesla, but wrong about humanity. People don't want to be free, they want to be comfortable, and comfort has a price. Tesla left the office without saying anything else, but as he walked down the stairs of the building, something began to form inside him. It wasn't defeat, it was something more complex, a bitter but liberating understanding. He hadn't lost. I had just played a different game than I imagined, and in that game there was no victory, just testimony. Because Tesla finally understood, his role was never to win. It was planting seeds in a land that would only flourish decades, perhaps centuries later. And as he walked the streets of New York, looking at the electric lights he had helped create, Tesla whispered to himself, they can control the wires, but they never will control the frequency. And at that moment, something extraordinary happened. Without anyone knowing, Tesla's true victory revealed itself. Because 10,000 kilometers away, a young student named Guglielmo Marconi was reading, fascinated, an article about wireless transmission, and he started to draw his own ideas. The frequency was traveling, and it would never stop again. 23 years later, January 1926, Hotel New Yorker, room 3327. Tesla is sitting on a worn chair near the window. He is now 70 years old. The hair, completely white. The body, fragile. But the eyes still glow with that same electric intensity. He holds a newspaper in his hands. The headline reads, Radio becomes global phenomenon. Millions of homes connected wirelessly. He smiles. It's not a bitter smile. It's a smile of someone who finally understands time. On the next table, cards, hundreds of them, from students, engineers, inventors around the world. Everyone thanking you for your discoveries. Many didn't even know they were using principles that Tesla had discovered decades earlier, and that didn't bother him anymore. Because Tesla had learned the hardest lesson of his life. True greatness is not in being recognized. It is inevitable. George enters the room with a tray of tea. Mr. Tesla, are you at peace with all of this? Tesla is silent for a long moment. Then he responds in a soft but firm voice. I used to think that peace was recognition, that it was victory. He looks out the window, at the illuminated city. But peace, I discovered, is knowing that you planted something that cannot be destroyed, even if they never see their hands in the seed. That night, Tesla wrote a letter, to no one specific, for everyone. If you're reading this, it's because you felt the loneliness of seeing what others don't see, the weight of carrying a vision that the world does not yet understand. The price of seeking to be greater than everyone around is existential. You pay with sleepless nights, with lost friendships, with recognition that never arrived. But that price buys something money never could, the freedom to be true to yourself, and the eternity of planting something that will grow long after you're gone. So, if they destroyed what you built, take a deep breath, because they can burn towers, but they will never burn the frequency you emit. Tesla left the letter open on the table. No recipient. because it was for everyone who came after. Nikola Tesla died alone in 1943 in room 3327 of the New Yorker hotel. No fortune, no family, no public recognition. But when they cleaned out his belongings, they found hundreds of letters from people thanking him for the inspiration he had given, often without knowing it. Today, more than 80 years later, we live in a world that Tesla imagined. Wireless power charges our cell phones. Invisible waves connect billions of people. And although few know his name, everyone lives within his vision. Because this is the justice of time. Those who vibrate too high for the present always become the frequency of the future. So, if you recognize this loneliness, if you've ever been called crazy for seeing what others don't see, remember Tesla. The price of seeking to be greater than everyone around is real. It's heavy, but it is also the only price that buys something eternal. The freedom to have been true to oneself. You don't need to win now. You just need to keep vibrating. Because in the end, it's not those who control the wires who change the world. They are the ones who release the frequencies. And if this story touched something inside you, subscribe to the channel. Because here, we honor those who dare to be greater than fear. Tesla's frequency still travels. And if you listen to this story until the end, it's because she found you. The tower could burn, but the frequency is eternal.